You're listening to the Bulldog Insider podcast, sponsored by Essentia Health.
Here, our hobbies become our work, and our work becomes our passion. But when joint pain or injuries keep us from doing what we love, it can affect our entire way of life. That's why we meet these challenges head on. Whatever your good day looks like, we'll find it together. This is Essentia Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, like nowhere else. Visit essentiahealth.org.
Hello and welcome to the Bulldog Insider podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health. I'm Matt Wellens, the Bulldogs hockey beat writer at the Duluth News Tribune and the Rink Live.
I'm Zach Schneider, the television voice of UMD hockey on My9 Sports.
The Bulldogs are back from a short Halloween break, or at least the men are. The UMD men begin NCHC play this weekend with a trip to Lawson Ice Arena in Kalamazoo, Michigan for a top 10 matchup against Western Michigan. It's the third consecutive top 10 team UMD will face to start the year. Bulldogs enter the weekend at number 4 in the latest USCHO.com poll with 3 first place votes. One of those first place votes is not mine. I want that on the record. I've been voting St. Cloud State number 1, at least for this week, and I believe the week before as well. I have UMD 4th. The Broncos are at number 10. I have them at number 6 on my ballot right now. I also had them in the top 4 of the NCHC to start the season. They were at number 4. Zach, I think we talked a little bit about this. Where did you have the Broncos in the preseason? And do you want to do over it all based on what you've seen this month?
Boy, 6 games in and you're already asking me to eat my words. No, they've certainly played well. They deserve, I think, that spot in the top 10 this week. I had them at number 7 in my NCHC poll. So Western Michigan fans, if you're listening to this ahead of this weekend's games, I apologize. Somebody's got to be number 7 and somebody's got to be number 8, right? This is a very good league. And 7 teams, I think, are in the top 20. Colorado College is the only NCHC team not ranked this week. And so I'm not going to take it back yet. I don't think we know everything about the Broncos. We'll know more certainly after they play 2 games against UMD this weekend. We'll know more about the Bulldogs after they play the Broncos as well. But certainly you don't go into Ann Arbor and get a win and an overtime loss by accident. So Western Michigan has played well. They needed a 6-goal rally and then overtime to win 2 games against Colgate though too, which aren't necessarily their wins on their schedule. So that's good for the Broncos, but that's not necessarily a position that you want to be in as a team early in the year either. So I guess we'll find out. I'm not going to take it back yet, though.
And you shouldn't, because the Broncos could finish like 7th in the country and 7th in the NCHC. I just pulled this up real quick. The NCHC in non-conference play to start 34-18-3. Only the Big Ten is really anywhere close to them. Actually, the Big Ten has a better winning percentage, 26-13-1, but NCHC and Big Ten are tied right now 6-6 in head-to-head competition. So, hey, you could be right, Zach. I mean, the Broncos could be a top 10 team at the end of the year, and they could be 7th still in the NCHC. Probably won't happen, but nice to see you're sticking with your guns there.
For now, ask me again at Christmas.
Ask you again at Christmas? All right. Every month, we're going to ask us all how we feel about our preseason picks. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'll have my interview with Tanner Laderoute from Amsoil Arena this week. Then Zach will rejoin me, and we'll have Bruce Ciskie with us as well to talk more Bulldog hockey. You're listening to the Bulldog Insider podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health.
I'm McHatton.
I'm Jess Myers, and we are the co-hosts of the Rink Live podcast. We really pride ourselves on finding some unique guests and covering some of the topics of the day, not only in college hockey, but kind of across a broad spectrum.
We also talk junior hockey. We'll get some of that talk in there as well. Women's hockey, men's hockey. We try to talk to people from throughout the game and actually from all over the country.
And Mick and I are kind of OG, the Rink Live guys. We were here from the start, about 3 years ago now when things got off the ground, but we brought a fair amount of college hockey experience to this job. I went to Minnesota Duluth. I covered college hockey starting then when I was a student. I've covered the Frozen Four 28 times, and I primarily cover the Minnesota Gophers now for the Rink Live, but dabble in a little bit of everything.
And I've covered St. Cloud State hockey. Now this will be my 12th season. So please check us out on the Rink Live podcast on Mondays.
Hello and welcome back to the Bulldog Insider podcast brought to you by Essentia Health. I'm Matt Wellens, joined here at Amsoil Arena by senior Tanner Laderoute, and I'm not going to attempt, I think the last time we had you on this podcast, you had me butcher some French really, really bad. I'm not even going to attempt to try it this time. Tanner, you guys are coming off the bye weekend here, had the Halloween weekend off. How'd you and your teammates spend the bye after kind of a grueling first month of the season there?
Just tried to all stay together. We still skated and worked out and did everything normal. Good practices, good scrimmages. Kind of tried to make something close to like there was a game. So kind of like an inter-squad scrimmage both of the days, and just trying to get ready for a really big next weekend here in Western Michigan.
Did you guys celebrate Halloween at all in your own way? Any of you guys big into Halloween costumes or anything?
Jake Rosenbaum loves his Halloween costume, so he got a pretty good one, but no, nothing crazy.
What was Jake's costume here?
Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. Kind of looks like with the hair and facial hair, so it really worked all together.
Kind of like the Packers' Aaron Rodgers apparently took an entire year to grow out his look for his costume. A Keanu Reeves character, and I'm embarrassed not to know what movie it's from, but Rosie, is this like a year-long thing in the making here or something? Does this explain the flow and everything we've been seeing from him? I'm curious to see this Jon Snow costume. That's not easy to pull off.
I think he's always had that flow, but maybe the facial hair mixed in a little bit. He let it grow for quite some time, and he had been thinking about doing it, so finally pulling it off, he did it really well.
So no costume for you?
Yeah, we all had our own like little costumes, but I mean, just nothing crazy, little Amazon things and so on. So
what was yours? Since you shared Rosie's, I feel like you got to share yours.
Our house was just a group of boxers, so we all had matching boxing costumes.
Coordination. I like that. That's pretty good. What's your favorite Halloween candy?
I would probably have to say probably M&Ms.
That would also be the favorite of my 3-year-old Jack. He actually went up to a house this week and asked. They handed him a sucker, and he asked if they had M&Ms. I had to tell him, just say thank you and walk away, man. He's 3. He doesn't understand how rude that was. As you mentioned, huge weekend coming up for you guys. NCHC play starting. Glad you guys got a little maybe relaxation and fun. Don't get a lot of weekends off to be normal maybe college students during a season. This is an interesting start to the season, I'd say, for NCHC play. You start at Western, host Colorado College, then go to North Dakota, going to Western Michigan and North Dakota for road trips. Those are 2 intimidating buildings to go into to start, isn't it?
Yeah, those are probably, if not 2 of the hardest buildings to play in the NCHC. But with that, every single building in the NCHC is tough. So we're going to go into it wanting to play our game and focusing on ourselves. But yeah, those are 2 hornets' nests for sure.
You guys were in Lawson last year, but there were no fans in the building, right? How weird was that?
It was just so weird all year last year, here, there. The Lunatics not being present, I mean, was probably a little bit easier on us, but sometimes it's fun to kind of play that villain and kind of quiet the crowd too, so hopefully we can do that.
Is Lawson the one building where not having fans was maybe the weirdest? I'm trying to picture going to Lawson Ice Arena. It's right below the press box for Bruce and I. The Lunatics are right below us there. I often describe the press box at Lawson as like a small high school football field press box. It's just this small thing that hangs over the crowd there. I mean, was that the weirdest rink to be in with no fans, or was there a different one?
No, I could agree there. They have a great following and a great fan base, so would build that in with the smaller barn-like rink. It gets so loud, so kind of being quiet in there was very weird. So yeah, I could agree with that for sure.
You're familiar with their serenade chant to number 4. Any idea what they're going to do? You guys don't have a number 4 this year. Is someone else prepared to I guess there's a lot of players on your team that have no idea about the number 4 chant, which I'm trying to find a way to say it on this podcast that we try and keep somewhat family. 4's a B word. I remember Neil Pionk, I think that was the first guy I saw serenaded it, and he had no idea what it meant or what he did. Lunatics just pick out number 4. Anyone prepared for it this year now?
I guess, I don't know if they're prepared to change numbers or what they're going to do, so it might be a little curveball at us. But yeah, it was pretty crazy hearing that for Dill. He got a lot of that, obviously, and they do their research a little bit and they get chanting some stuff, so it's a fun atmosphere.
What is the best chirp you've ever received from fans, whether it was at college, juniors? What's the best chirp you've gotten that comes to your mind?
I don't really know if I've heard one directly from the crowd. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to think about that one.
In the Alberta Junior Hockey League, you played for Sherwood Park and Okotoks. What were the crowds like there? Obviously, they don't necessarily have student sections. I don't know if they have fan supporter sections. In Alberta, there in the Junior League, what were opposing crowds like?
They were actually really good. I mean, hockey is the biggest thing out west in Canada, so the following's definitely huge, especially in Okotoks, Brooks. Some of the higher end teams, the following's massive, and smaller towns that's about all you can do. But yeah, I've had some, like Fort McMurray is similar to kind of like the lunatic fan base where they're getting on you and you can hear them. So it's kind of similar.
Fort McMurray, that's the fan base that still sticks with you after all these years. Anytime like you go in there as a player and you come out and go, wow, that was kind of an impressive fan base. That was fun to play in front of.
Yeah, Fort McMurray, Oil Barons, and probably the Brooks Bandits.
Okay. And
then along with Okotoks others, we had a really good following too. So, I mean, those three are probably the most engraved in my mind, but I mean, they all have pretty good ones.
In the NCHC, what fans, even if they get on you pretty hard, like Lawson, the Western Michigan fans, which fans are fun to be that villain going up against?
Everyone's answer is going to be North Dakota. The building's massive. It's packed every night, and they have such a history of being such a good team, and so that's why they bring in so many fans. So that building, with how nice it is, the Jumbotron and everything, sound systems, and their fans are definitely followers. Sometimes you'll find that you're at home and it's half green, and so they bring their fans with them too. So probably playing in front of them and trying to quiet them down is probably the best.
It's interesting. Lawson and Ralph Engelstad Arena, two totally opposite ends of the spectrum of buildings, but both pretty rabid fan bases. Looking ahead at NCHC preview, as we mentioned, playing Western, CC, and North Dakota. Western Michigan, what stands out to you about that team? I had them in the top 4 of the NCHC to start the season in my preseason ballot. The rest of the media didn't agree with me, and I think they finished outside the top 4. What are your impressions of Western going into this year?
I mean, right off the bat, they returned, 10 of their top 10 leading scorers. Didn't really lose anyone. They have all good players coming back, so they're going to have experience and have played in this league before, and they know that every single night how grueling it can be. They're fast, they're strong. I mean, they have that same mentality as us. They might not come across as cute or trying to score 10 goals, but every single inch of the ice is going to be fought for. So I think more of like a mirror image of kind of us, like what we're trying to do is forecheck and kind of make it hard on other teams. So I think pretty similar to that. Excited
to see an old friend, Jason Herter, beside the Bronco bench there, and do you kind of expect him to maybe have them doing some of the same things that he had you guys doing here when he was coach of the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I think just because you go somewhere else doesn't mean you're going to let go of what you've taught. So I think he's also going to have some insight on us. I mean, he was here for however long too. So it's going to be an impact. It's going to be a really fun game to play.
North Dakota, you mentioned Western. They bring back a lot. North Dakota brought in a lot of transfers. I'm curious what your thoughts are on North Dakota. You're going to see them coming up here as well.
Yeah, just like you said, that's a lot of transfers, so I haven't really seen kind of what they're like. I mean, I think it does benefit bringing same players sometimes because they've already played with each other, so there's that chemistry built, but you can also build chemistry quick with like-minded players that are going towards a common goal, so it'll be cool to see what the difference between bringing back same players versus trying to bring some transfers in is going to be like.
Some rapid fire to finish things out here. Were you surprised when Noah Cates came back for his senior year, especially after Jackson signed with the Flyers?
Yes and no. I mean, he's one of the best hockey players I've ever played with, so he definitely probably could have left, like everyone knows. But his loyalty and his buy-in to this program is obviously shown by that choice, and he just wanted to give everything to this program like he does every single day at practice or at the rink or away from the rink. So that's just the type of person he is.
5th year, I don't know if you've decided what you're doing next year, but have you thought about it? What would you study with a 5th year of college?
My 5th year of college would be in the MBA program. So there's a 1-year MBA program that if you have a high enough GPA, you can skip the test to get into it. So that would be the plan with my 5th year.
What is your GPA?
pretty high, 3.96 right now, I think.
Okay, so way higher than mine ever was in college. That's easy. Are you going to graduate here in 4 years?
I'm on track. I'm going to have a pretty light load next semester due to doing some summer classes and always taking a 15 plus credit. So next semester is going to be a little bit lighter, two classes, and then I'll be graduated.
You took 15 plus credits every semester? Even this semester, you're taking 15 plus still?
I've had basically 15 plus every single semester, so I'm going to have a light one, the last one.
That's a workload. That's a workload for a college hockey player. You deserve the light load there. Coming up now in your last semester there. So this is a question I'm going to start throwing out to the women's teams, but I kind of want to throw it out to some of the men's players too here. You're Canadian from Alberta. Hypothetical situation for you guys in the men's team. It's going to be real for the women coming up with the Olympics here. You're Canadian, but you have a best friend and teammate who plays on another country. Who are you rooting for in the Olympics?
I guess if they were to play against each other, it would be a little harder. I mean, obviously, when they're not playing against each other, I'd be rooting for either that person or Canada. But if they were to play against each other, I'd probably have to go with Canada winning, but maybe them scoring a goal or something like that. So a little mixture, but probably have to take Canada winning because the talk goes a long way after that too, and then the banter keeps on going. So probably Canada.
Would it matter if the player played for, say, like the U.S., Canada's biggest rival, versus, say, and we're talking hypothetical, but like Sweden or Switzerland or Germany, like what the women have over there? Would it matter the country or not at all?
I don't really think so. I'd just be happy. I'd be cheering for maybe that one person throughout the tournament, but when it came down to, say, the gold medal or semifinals or something, I would probably have to have that maple leaf on my chest.
All right. Thanks, Tanner. We appreciate you for joining us on the podcast this week. We'll take a break and more with Zach and Bruce on the Bulldog Insider podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health.
Hey there, my name is Samantha Erkkila, and I'm the host of the Duluth News Tribune Minute podcast. Hear the most important news of the day, including weather and sports, from Duluth, Minnesota, and from around the Northland. Join me and my fellow reporters as we take you through the local news you need to start your day. Episodes are released Monday through Friday and are available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for supporting local journalism.
Welcome back to the Bulldog Insider podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health. I'm Matt Wellens, joined by Zach Schneider. I'd also like to welcome in to the podcast the voice of Bulldogs hockey on KDAL, Bruce Ciskie. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Bruce, where did you have the Broncos in the preseason, and where do you see them now, not only in the NCHC but nationally?
I had them third, and I had a couple of conversations with people that I like to talk to about the league, about Western Michigan, and it seemed like that was that one team that nobody seemed to know what to do with, and I picked them third on the strength of their older guys. You know, they're off to a great start. I don't know that I would change anything or try to get a do-over. I kind of like where I have them. I think they're a legit contender in this league. I thought that going into the season, and we'll find out, I think, a lot more about Western Michigan this weekend.
So as we mentioned at the start, 3 straight weekends now, Bulldogs have taken on a top 10 opponent. The Broncos are their 4th straight top 10 team. UMD's actually played nothing but ranked teams to start this season, and everyone still is in the rankings. Bemidji sitting at number 20 in the USCHO poll, just hanging on there. I always feel like oftentimes we do mid-season awards, which I guess those work, but the first month of the season to me is always like a really good grading period, especially when you're like UMD and you play some really good non-conference competition. So we're going to hand out some first month awards here on the podcast today for the men's hockey team. We'll start with, and some of these are made up awards, and then we'll go into, normally what you'd see. What 5th year Bulldog has made the biggest impact? Zach, I'll start with you.
Matt Anderson. I think he's been fabulous for UMD. I think it's probably the best stretch that we've seen him play consistently. He's playing bigger minutes as we knew he would with that D-core, and I think he's been fabulous. So hopefully he can continue that, but I'll go with Matt Anderson.
That was my pick as well, Matty Anderson. I think defensively he's been really, really good. He's pitched in a bit offensively. I think he's playing the best hockey of his college career right now. Bruce, do you got a different answer for us?
I don't. I actually thought I was thinking outside the box of Matty Anderson. So congrats to both of you for that. I agree. I think he's playing some of his best hockey right now. And I think it's it's pretty clear that they like what they're seeing with him so far. I think having him back with Louis that last night Gophers weekend is kind of like reuniting peanut butter and jelly after a long separation. It was good to see them together again.
Yeah, Matt Anderson and Louis Rail both, I feel like, are at their best when those two are playing together. And I think some of the younger defensemen now, Scott probably feels more comfortable pairing them with, putting the younger defensemen together. Whereas before, I think they were trying to give those younger guys some experience. Who's our defensive player of the month to start the season? Bruce, I'll let you start.
Defensive player of the month, I'm going to go with Wyatt Kaiser. I think he's off to a really good start. Even, that first Gophers game where I thought he was a little shaky in the first period with the puck, he comes back and makes a huge play in the second. I thought he got better as that series went on. I think he's got a goal now, and that hopefully gives him some confidence at the offensive end, because I do think that there's some untapped offensive potential with Wyatt Kaiser, but defensively, I think he's been really good so far.
Zach, who's your top defensive player on this team right now?
For me, it's Matt Anderson, which is kind of a boring answer given that we just talked about him a lot. So outside the box, I'll say Casey Gilling has been super good. I think defensively, he maybe, was more known and talked about from for his offensive impact on that top line as a centerman. But I think he's been really responsible defensively, and you put him on a line, with Noah Cates and a couple different wingers through the first month. I think he's done really well at that center ice spot on the top line.
I feel like we could take anyone from that top line. I'm just going to throw out Tanner Laderoute, who was our guest earlier on the podcast, not just because he was the guest and his favorite candy is the same as my 3-year-old's, but that Gopher game, man, he took a shot to the side of the knee there that would take most people out. And he comes out, and he really was. It was at the end of that game, you realize Tanner's defensive impact that he has. That entire line, you're right, Zach. Casey Gilling could get this. You could give it to Noah Cates. Matt Anderson obviously has been really solid defensively as well. I'm going to give it to Tanner Laderoute for gutting it out through an injury and helping the Bulldogs close out that win against Minnesota. I know a lot of people, when they say top line is your top scoring line, but I have no problem with the Bulldogs top line being a defensive shutdown line. And those guys can score too, but we've really seen Noah Cates, Casey Gilling, and Tanner Laderoute go up against some pretty good lines in college hockey right now and shut them down. Who's our most improved player for UMD after the first month? Bruce?
Unquestionably Blake Biondi. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The confidence he's playing with right now, and I talked to Adam Krause this morning. It's funny, sometimes you get these guys on a bit of a heater, and you can tell, and you can see by how Blake is playing that he has gained so much confidence both in terms of the role that they're using him in now versus last year, and just the level that he's able to get to. He's starting to play like a guy who's about 6'1". He's starting to play with that swagger that we saw for a lot of years up at Hermantown. It's been fun to watch. I think Blake Biondi's got this not even close.
Zach?
Yeah, the only player probably in the conversation for me is Quinn Olson. And he's had a couple more years, to get one more year to get his feet wet in college hockey. But I don't think we've seen certainly the height of Quinn Olson at UMD, and that might come later this year. It might come next year. But he's got so much top end talent, and I think the coaching staff the last couple of years, he burst onto the scene as a freshman, right? And then he maybe tried to do too much or got put in roles that maybe he wasn't quite comfortable with, but now he looks really comfortable playing the role that he needs to play. And we've heard repeatedly from the coaching staff that he's been one of their best players since the start of camp this fall. And so if he can continue to do that, Quinn Olson's probably the only other guy on the team that I would put into that conversation right now alongside Blake Biondi.
I'll go with Blake Biondi. Again, Quinn, I think we've seen this level out of play before with Quinn, but then he gets bounced around the lineup. He had an injury to deal with one season there. It was tough for him to ever develop a rhythm. Blake Biondi, last year you're sitting there wondering, he's having a tough time adapting to college hockey. He's a fourth line winger, not seeing a lot of ice. I mean, he sat for a lot of that 5 overtime game against North Dakota until they threw him out there with, Luke Millimak and Luke Lohheit so that they could give some other guys a rest. What Blake Biondi's done in this first month is, he's their leading scorer right now. He is definitely one of the biggest scoring threats on the team. It's a complete 180 from last year, and it's been fun to watch. I think this is an easy answer for everyone, but we'll see. Rookie of the month, Zach, who do you got?
Oh, I get to go first. So I get to pick Dominic James, and Bruce can come up with a different answer. No, he's been the best freshman for sure for UMD on that line with Blake. He's popped early in the year. And we talked about this with the coaching staff too, is that last year with Wyatt Kaiser, Blake Biondi, those were true freshmen who got some games in junior hockey, but now you're bringing in a Dominic James, Owen Gallatin. Those guys are a bit older. They've got a little bit more junior hockey experience. And so the transition, maybe not as much for them in terms of pace of the game and what's expected of them, but to have the month that Dom has had to start your college hockey career, hopefully he continues to just get better and better.
Bruce?
I'll say somebody else's name. I'll throw Owen Gallatin out there. A guy that came in third pair, a young guy. He's been away from home for 3 years. So he's got that experience of maybe a more seasoned junior player, and he looks like it. He skates well. He's the first game up in Bemidji, he jumped off the page to me as a kid that's, I don't care how big he is, he's going to jump in anywhere and do what he has to do to defend and win battles. And now he's starting to contribute offensively. I think the sky's the limit for Owen Gallatin. So, if you're going to take Dominic James off the table for me, and justifiably so, I'll throw Owen Gallatin in there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dominic James because it's a domino effect. Like Dominic James's play as that third line center means Noah Cates can stay on the wing, and it strengthens that, it's just a ripple effect. Like he's been so good there. That's allowed Quinn Olson and Blake Biondi to do their thing. Dominic James, it's a phenomenal call up. And this is a kid that was actually supposed to originally head back to juniors for another year when they were looking at, the bringing people in. Jack Smith had an injury, so they decided to keep him in juniors another year. Dominic James had a great year at juniors. They bring him up. Man, it's interesting to think where they might be if he wasn't in there right now. Carter Loney, I think we could also throw an honorable mention here as well, because as big as it's been for Dominic to secure that third line center position, for Carter to step in and not only secure that fourth line center spot, but make that a very good, potent line out there as well for the Bulldogs, one they could throw out there on a regular basis. I mean, that's huge as well. Who is our MVP to start the season after 1 month? Zach, it's our podcast, so you get to start. We'll make Bruce go last on this one.
I don't want to take two answers from him. This one's a tough one, honestly, and it probably shouldn't be that tough. So, the easy answer is Noah Cates. The only loss that UMD has this year was the game that he got kicked out of. And I think we all saw the impact that Noah has on the team. He is certainly the leader, and he's not only a guy that produces on the score sheet, but just the emotional leader. So I think he's the easy answer, and I don't want to take too many answers away from Bruce, who gets to go next. But I think Ryan Fanti deserves mention in this category as well, because his saves percentage. I didn't prep for this week's games because they're on the road and we're not doing them. But Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. I think his saves percentage is like .935 right now, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Something like that, yeah.
That's not like off the charts good, but if he can sustain that, UMD will be very, very happy with that over the course of a year. So he's played awesome, especially in the absence of Zach Schneider. So those two, I think maybe 1A and 1B as far as MVP go.
Ryan Fanti, the Bulldogs are 4-0 with him in goal. He's got a 1.75 goals against average, 926 save percentage there. And Zach not going to be on no TV in Kalamazoo this weekend. So there you go. He set up Mr. Listen to the Radio down there on KDAL. Bruce, who's your first month MVP?
I assumed that I would not be going first, so I assumed that Noah Cates would be off the table. And I was going to say Ryan Fanti and make sure his name got out there, but Noah Cates to me is the guy. You can't discount the emotional impact he has on this team. We all saw that with what happened in the Michigan game. And yeah, I do think if that particular scenario plays out in a game in January or February, I think the team is better equipped to respond than maybe they were in that game against Michigan. All due respect to Michigan, because they took it to UMD after that happened. But I think Noah Cates is got the guy here. He's winning battles. He's getting to the net. You can see the difference in his game, the confidence he's playing with as a wing versus a center. You take a little bit of defensive responsibility off his plate. It doesn't mean he's not defensively responsible, but he can be a little more offensively aggressive. And there's an offensive upside to his game that I think is really important to this team going forward.
Yeah, I think Noah Cates, it's tough to to bet against him as the first half MVP here right now. Again, it's not just offensively what he does, but defensively, as we mentioned, defensive player of the month. You could give it to anyone on that top line. And Noah Cates, it's interesting as a center. I thought that's where his game improved the most, was as a defensive player out there. And you can see it continuing now out there on the wing. My wild card would be Quinn Olson, because I feel like he's a big reason why that line with him and Blake Biondi and Dominic James, not trying to take anything away from Dom or Blake, but the old cliche, the straw that stirs the drink, that's Quinn Olson. He's really elevated his game. And I think it's a big reason why that line is having success out there, maybe equally as much as, what Noah Cates does for his line as well. So those are our top guys after the first month. We'll see if it holds up halfway through the year. We'll see how it holds up at the end of the year. Thank you a lot for joining us on the podcast again, Bruce. We appreciate it.
Anytime, fellas.
Thanks as well to Zach for joining us from the Twin Cities. Big thanks to Tanner Laderoute as well for taking time out of his day to meet up before practice and record a podcast segment with us. Bulldog Insider comes out every Thursday, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and rate us. For more Bulldog hockey coverage, visit therinklive.com and DuluthNewsTribune.com. If you want to know how to follow the Bulldogs each week, I got a little segment in Follow, Watch, Listen called Follow, Watch, Listen. It's in our Bulldog Insider newsletter. That's where you can figure out where to listen to the radio. Bruce, what are all the options? We'll let you promote them since you're on here this week.
Well, thank you. 610 AM, 103.9 FM. The website is KDAL610.com. We also have an app, and we can be heard on iHeartRadio.
And again, links to KDAL's online streams, you can find those in the Bulldog Insider newsletter as well. Thanks to our sponsor, Essentia Health, for their continued support of the Bulldog Insider podcast. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening.